as far as going into blocks, Reactor 6 is, I made just a couple, I brought two examples here. One is, this one's kind of a fun one, sort of a rhythmic based patch. This is kind of similar to what I'm doing with Eurorack stuff. That's a kick drum for you. So I'm really into creating these environments that when you sort of just, you set up a patch, they sort of generate results for you. I'm really into that idea. I love creating an environment that generates lots of possibilities. You just set it on autopilot. You set the parameters. You define the rules, and then it basically floats in that world of all these arguments and things that you come up with. So with this, basically, was the idea was to generate a synthetic percussion instrument with sort of a like a synthesis baseline, if you will, like an acid. I call it an acid. This one's called DevineAcid, ENS. So it's my weird way of making an abstract acid rhythmic percussion machine. And I'm using stuff from the internal reactor blocks, and then some stuff from the actually from the forum. A good friend of mine named Michael has been uploading a lot of content. I'm using quite a few of his blocks. He's a good friend, and he's making a whole sort of like Eurorack. I don't know how to explain it. Sort of emulating some of the modules that we're using in our Eurorack patches, like the clock dividers and multipliers and stuff like that. So I've been using quite a few of those. But yeah, without further ado, I'll just play it. And so there's no samples. This is all just synthesis with Reactor. And I could just let this run. It'll just change all the time, do different stuff. So I'm using like probabilities too that change the pattern playback of the hi-hats, so you're not always getting the same sort of patterns happening, so things will change over time. So even with the bass line, everything's all kind of... Yes. Yeah. So this is just the same patch, just a different preset or snap variation. So you can hear this whole... It'll just constantly change. And this one. Yeah, I don't know why it is. It always sounds weird, like my style. But that's what's so great about it. You come in with something you want to do. You have a style or something that you could really say that through this instrument. I feel that reflects a really good design environment. If you can really say something that's artistically what you're about, that shows that this is really awesome. But you could get really, just even with this ensemble, this is another weird snapshot. You get a lot of different variations. This one's called Random Math. I'm almost, this one you're doing almost like playing pitches with the hi-hat timbre, doing different kind of weird melodic sort of stuff. This one's sort of an Aphex didgeridoo-like snapshot. Kind of emulating like that bandpass filter sort of filtery effect. But this one's called Chance Dance. These are some weird snapshots I made, but it just shows it. I mean, it's just so flexible. This one's more of just a weird half tempo. And I love going into the odd time signatures, like 5/4, 7/4, where you're not expecting things to happen at certain times, where you inject probability and randomness, but more in a musical way. I call this one the CPU killer, because my CPU is struggling right now, but I always, I don't know what it is. It seems to be a problem that I run into a lot. I always get, whatever I get, I always max out. I figure out a way to max out the system, you know, and I'm like, I get the latest computer. Like within 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, I'm already running out of, you know, I've run out of this, and everybody's like, it only happens to you, Rich. It's ridiculous. I don't know why you know. So that's one example I wanted to show you guys. This other one is a synthesizer that I'm going to just play on the keyboard. And this too also is, it's like, I call it like a Frankenstein patch. It's just a bunch of different stuff from the internal library, and then stuff from the user library. There's 2 Car Plus oscillators, and then I'm using 2 wavetable oscillators. There's this instrument that was uploaded that a guy tried to emulate. I think it was like a microwave, and so it uses it really cool. And I designed this new synth out of it that uses a combination of Car Plus drum synthesis and wavetables. So I'm going to just actually, if I could show you guys that, it's kind of cool because you can use any, like I'm just using the OP1, but I'm going to just set, see that, this is triggering. What's so great is the modulation system that's been implemented in REAKTOR 6, where you're able to set up multiple different modulations with LFOs, envelopes, whatever you want. So you can very quickly get into some things that where the instrument's coming alive. There's a lot of animation happening from different angles. It's pretty much what I really loved about Molecular. When they first came out with that instrument, when I was designing it, that was the first time I saw this new sort of internal automation system. And I was like, oh wow, this is where it gets crazy. So you could get into some really expressive sounds. So each one of these sounds has different amounts of modulation ranges set where I can. So the sounds never plays the same way, but it's always gesturing. And here's one called DevineAcid. It's kind of weird. Very spacey, alien type stuff. And then this one's sort of a weird, like alien Tron like wobble. So you can just show the flexibility. This is sort of like a pad. You can use it to make pad sounds as well. Last one is kind of like a Johnny Greenwood sort of drone. I'm really into his scores. I follow a lot of film composers and stuff. This is kind of like a If There Will Be Blood kind of that scene in the film. I love REAKTOR for this kind of stuff because you can, like, even just within one ensemble, you can go like the full gamut of, like, you know, and any sound timbre, if you just think about it, you can really create these just otherworldly textures that are just really fascinating if you just kind of think about what you want to do with it. But yeah, it's just Reactor 6 has just been amazing for that. Like the sound quality and just the ease of the new modulation system is really what's for me has been really inspiring, because you can find all these really interesting sweet spots, automation points, and then kind of just snapshot that, and then like, oh cool, here's one setting it can do, here's another setting, so you can just get hundreds of variations from just one instrument. And this one I'm not using even that many block objects at all. This is very, four oscillators, a couple of LFOs, delay and reverb, couple of envelopes, not very complex at all by any means, to get very sort of dense textures and stuff. Very impressive. So yeah, I mean, I've been having a lot of fun with it.
And how much more immediate do you find Reactor 6 and Blocks to Reactor 5's environment?
Oh, definitely. This is much easier. I found that even what Mate was talking about as far as like the refining how to get to things, how to build things is much faster. I love how they have the split view. You can be a lot more efficient building things. So you spend more time getting good sounds quicker, and there's nothing wrong with Reactor 5. I'd still use it. It would take me longer to get to those cool find those sweet spots really fast. Now I get to those sweet spots really fast with Reactor 6, which is awesome, because I never have any time when people hit me up for stuff. Hey, Rich, we need it today. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll make that happen. So it's nice to have an instrument that's inspiring that you can build in, but gives you results very fast, really quickly. I mean, I know everyone wants stuff very fast, but it seems like things are just, they want stuff yesterday. But yeah, it's been incredible. I love where it's at right now, and I love that the direction that it's heading in, and it's really inspiring. It's brought like this. I was already really amped on using Reactor all the time, every day in my stuff, but now it's just reignited this like super like inspirational sort of like springboard to do all these cool things again. So I'm really happy with where we're at right now.